What's happening, everybody? This looks weird. This whole setup looks strange. All right, there we go. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday night football. Welcome to the beginning of Week 8 and another crucial week of the NFL season for the actual NFL teams and fantasy teams alike. And, of course, welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy, taking y'all as long as we need to go tonight prior to kickoff between the Bills and the Bucs. We can officially start looking a little bit more closely at start-sit options this week, on Thursday. Generally speaking, practice reports really start to help to take shape for the week today. Whether it's players returning to practice after a missed Wednesday practice or 2 straight missed practices. This is where it really starts to help make those determinations, make those decisions. So we can get into all of that tonight. As far as tonight's matchup specifically, I do always try to do quickly just a discussion about the players involved in tonight's game. Of course, everybody's situation is going to be different depending on who your other options are at different positions. But we'll kick it off with a general overview of what to expect in tonight's game, or at least to the best of our abilities, the type of predictions we can make as far as who makes the most sense to fire up this evening. The must-starts in this game are Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. They're in every lineup, right? We're not taking those guys out. I would also say Chris Godwin would be a must-start, but because he is on the injury report, he's a little less of a must-start for me. That being said, I am firing him up where I have him. The must-start is the guy who's actually healthy, which is Mike Evans. I think everybody at least expects coming into this game that there will be game script in favor of the Bucs passing game. There is a difference in talent level and expectations for both of these teams. We expect the Bills to have success on offense at home, even on a short week. They've dropped a couple of games here, a couple of winnable games here, in the past couple of weeks. They probably want to right the ship at home. And you would have to imagine that means there's a good amount of points scored tonight on the Bills side, which means that the Bucs are going to have to stay aggressive throwing the ball. I would think that means that Mike Evans is an auto start, especially with Trey White lost for the season. And Evans has been good this year. 4 or 5 games, he's been a wide receiver 2 or better. Those are the guys that I think need to be in lineups everywhere. I would tentatively put Chris Godwin in the must-start category, but he is on the injury report, so it should be noted. That being said, in all likelihood, I am finding a way to get him into my lineup. It's a good matchup, and game script favors him this evening. Other guys that I think make sense to start are the other 2 Bills in this matchup that I think that are in a good spot. Running back James Cook, tight end Dalton Kincaid. For Kincaid, it's simple. He's a rock-solid streaming option this week and probably for the next month with Dawson Knox officially on IR. There is no chance, of course, at this point that he can take any more snaps and touches away from Dalton Kincaid. He will be the pass-catching threat at the tight end position for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen has proven that he likes throwing to the tight ends, especially in the red zone. Dalton Kincaid had 8 catches for 75 yards last week. You figure he remains a big factor, and especially at home. It's not a great matchup by the numbers, but the Bills' passing offense is a neutralizer in that situation, and being at home, that makes it a little bit safer of a roll of the dice as well. As for James Cook, he has established a pretty strong floor. He's had a couple of games over the past few weeks that left a lot to be desired. You obviously, I think, not last week, but the couple weeks prior, you were left wishing that he wasn't in your starting lineup. That being said, he remains the obvious guy in the backfield who continues to get the most work and the most opportunities. And especially so if Vita Vea is out tonight. He is coming down to a true game time decision. We will probably find out maybe in the next 45 minutes or so. I believe that's around when injury reports will be released for these two teams for this game tonight. If Vita Vey is out, I think you have to find a way to get James Cook into your lineup. If Vita Vey gives it a go and plays, it's understandable if you want to pivot off of him, but Cook has pretty much secured himself as a rock solid RB2 option. He is easily outpacing Latavius Murray in opportunities, and Damian Harris is once again out this evening. So no concerns there as far as his availability. So keep an eye on the injury report. If you want to pivot off of James Cook because if Vita Vey plays, I understand. But if he doesn't, I really think you probably want to find a way to get him into your lineup. Rachaad White, you might have better options. You might not. This might actually be a decent spot for him. It's been a rough go of it for Rachaad White from a matchup perspective, and also the Bucs have struggled to run the ball in general this year. But the Bills are giving up some decent production on the ground this season, and again, to the point of we expect the Bucs to have to throw. Game script should favor their passing game, assuming that they are trailing in this game to the better team on the road. You would think Rachaad White has a chance to get in there and catch a few passes. So I think tentatively he's got decent RB2 upside tonight. Not necessarily RB1 upside, but he should get involved out of the backfield, catching the football for the Bucs this evening. Gabe Davis remains a boom bust wide receiver 3. He might get you 15. He might get you 2.5. But it's been a couple of down weeks for Gabe Davis at this point. Of course, I feel like this is usually the time in a stretch where just when you're ready to write Gabe Davis off is when he bounces back and has a nice game. So if you're looking for if you're desperate for some upside, you could do worse than Gabe Davis at home catching passes from Josh Allen. I think that generally covers a overview, like a glossing general overview of tonight's matchup. So if you do have players in tonight's game and you're weighing your options between them or somebody else who's playing either on Sunday or Monday, we can go over it. The guys I would definitely find a way to get into your lineup outside of the obvious guys like Allen and Diggs and Mike Evans. I really think you should fire up James Cook tonight if you have him. And if you don't have an obvious play at tight end, fire up Dalton Kincaid. Fire up Dalton Kincaid. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. What's going on, everybody? Happy to see everybody in here. Alex Crumplyheads, good to see you guys. Got to shout out my members. And everybody else, appreciate y'all coming in, whether you're new or if you've been here before. I do get to my member questions first. That is a perk of being a member of this channel. You can jump the line in the chat. But I will get to everybody's questions at some point. So I just ask for a little bit of patience. Appreciate that. I will get to everybody before this game kicks off. A score prediction for tonight. I don't like betting the over for a Thursday night game just in a vacuum. I know that that's not always a foolproof plan of attack. I think the over is around 38.5, or it might be a little bit higher than that. What is this line? 43.5. Excuse me. I don't know where I missed those 5 points from. 43.5. I would probably bet the under on that, even though I do think the Bills are always aggressive on offense. The Bucs are going to have to be more aggressive than they probably want to be on offense. 43.5, and the Bills are 9.5-point favorites, which I guess means their implied total, is around 27. The Bucs total is around 18-ish points. So maybe like a 28-20 type of score. On a Sunday, that would probably be something I would look for, but maybe more like a 24-16 type of thing. I feel like the over just misses. Bills maybe get 3 scores and a field goal at home, or 2 scores, a couple field goals, maybe a couple of 2-point tries. Um, Bucs somewhere in the 14 to 17 or 18 range. As a general rule of thumb, I kind of look at the under on Thursday night football, but I like the over for field goals. So if you have Tyler Bass, fire him up. And let's see. Crumbly heads, Downs, Nico, Hollywood, Lockett. We're choosing 3. Hollywood's got a revenge game against the Ravens. Oh, you have Cooper as well. Cooper's tough to trust, of course, given all of the uncertainty. Did Deshaun Watson practice today? I feel like he didn't. I can't imagine he's going to play. Yeah, he's not practicing Thursday. Watson's probably not expected to play, so it's going to be another week of PJ Walker. Fire up the Seahawks defense, by the way, if nobody has them and you're between a couple of different options. So Cooper's a little tough to trust. Cooper had a really good game one week with PJ Walker, and then I think he was somewhat quiet last week against the Colts. I know he had a couple of catches late. Yeah, 2 for 22. 8 targets, but nobody cares about targets when the output is only 2 catches for 22 yards. It is a good matchup by the numbers. Cooper is a little tough to trust, though, given the situation. Nico, Lockett. Lockett's got a tough matchup against Cleveland on the other side of the ball. That is a tough matchup. Houston for Nico Collins is playing the Panthers. Okay. It's a favorable spot for Nico Collins coming off of his bye week. And then you have Downs as well. I think you got to fire up Nico. I might. Cooper's tough to trust. Cooper's tough to trust. For Indianapolis, Pittman should see Marshawn Lattimore, so Downs should continue to see one-on-one coverage. I kind of like Nico, Crumply Heads. I kind of like Marquise Brown in a revenge game against Baltimore, even though it's a tough matchup for Josh Dobbs. I kind of like that revenge game factor for Marquise Brown. And then DK Metcalf is back for the Seahawks, presumably. Didn't matter one way or another for Tyler Lockett. He did have another down week last week, 4 for 38. Really hasn't had a strong week since week 2. He had a wide receiver 2 performance week 6, but it was a low end. 6 for 94. 6 for 94 is good, but still a low end wide receiver 2 performance. I would say Nico, Hollywood, and then I'll give you Cooper is a ceiling play, but he's a boom bust ceiling play. Downs might be the safe play here. It's kind of tough to say, after 2 good games to fire up Josh Downs over Amari Cooper. I don't know that I could necessarily bring myself to do it because we saw Cooper have a good game with PJ Walker already. It didn't happen last week, but it happened 2 weeks ago. I'd probably go Nico, Hollywood, Cooper, and just hope for the best with Cooper. I like Nico coming out of his bye week against the Panthers, and I like Hollywood in a revenge game against the Ravens. And then I would probably just take my chances with Cooper. That's probably what I'm doing. We've seen Cooper have a good game with PJ Walker, so hopefully he can duplicate week 7's performance, not week 8's performance. All right, back to the top. Gabe Davis or Kareem Hunt. Did Kareem Hunt return to practice today? He did. He returned to practice today. Hunt has the Seahawks. And Jerome Ford is out this week. Is it right? I believe that's the case. Yeah, Ford's not gonna play this week. Kareem Hunt returned to practice this week. Um, Gabe is a boom bust wide receiver 3. I would probably just play Kareem Hunt. Is it full PPR? It is full PPR. Hunt. It's close. It's close because Gabe could have Gabe could have a big game or just at least a big play for a score any given week. Um, but I'll take the running back in Kareem Hunt, who has a clear path to as many opportunities as he can handle with no Jerome Ford for Cleveland. I'll take Hunt. As far as your defense, honestly, it's a coin flip. I think Philly and the Chiefs are the top 2 options um, on defense this week. Both are on the road. Both are in spots where their opponent is playing for revenge. Kansas City beat Denver earlier this season. Philadelphia beat Washington earlier this season. So both of their opponents are looking for revenge. Neither opponent strikes that much fear on offense. Washington is giving up sacks at an historic rate. Kansas City might be the most improved unit on defense in the NFL this year. And you just naturally expect, no matter what, any given week, you expect Patrick Mahomes to be playing with a lead, which sets the defense up for favorable situations. So I have a tough time truly answering this question. I would give a slight nod to the Eagles because of their sack potential. However, the Chiefs present a very, very safe play this week because they're going up against an inferior opponent in the Denver Broncos. They are a rock solid unit, and you expect Patrick Mahomes at any given point to be giving them a lead to work with, which allows them to tee off against a broken Russell Wilson. It's a true coin flip. I actually think they are the top 2 options this week. If you could only play one, the Eagles have the higher sack potential, but I would say if I had to put my money on to who I just expect to get a win, it's hard to say anybody else other than Mahomes. And if you prefer to play with a defense that you feel more strongly is going to be playing with a lead, then it would be Kansas City. But if you in a vacuum want to just follow the potential for strong production in the form of quarterback pressures, that's the Eagles. That's Philadelphia. Sam Howell is getting sacked at a higher, faster rate than Houston Texans rookie David Carr way back in the day when he got sacked like 800 times in one season. So it's a bit of a cop-out answer. They're both really strong options. I slightly lean Philly, but I truly don't think there's a wrong answer here. I slightly lean Philly for the sacks, but if you prefer to have a defense with a lead, Kansas City. Kansas City. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. Okay, Astro, I know you have this wide receiver conundrum. London does have a good matchup, and look, I like Garrett Wilson because of the matchup. The Giants like to blitz a lot on defense, and the Wilson to Wilson connection against the blitz this year has been pretty good. So that's kind of the situation that I'm chasing, but just on straight up paper, London has a really good matchup. If your gut is telling you London, then play London. It's just tough to trust Desmond Ridder and this offense on a consistent basis. I do not trust Arthur Smith. I think he's a boob. I don't trust them any given week. especially after the bullshit that they pulled with Bijan last week. Now, I don't necessarily expect that to happen each and every week, but the Falcons' offense is difficult to trust for fantasy purposes because Desmond Ridder is not that good. London has a great matchup. The Titans are not good in the secondary, and they just traded Kevin Byard, so they're even worse. So if you want to chase that matchup and in your gut you're telling yourself London has the best matchup and that's what I want to go with, then go London. I would probably go Wilson. Not that Zach Wilson is that much better than Desmond Ridder, but I do think he is better than Desmond Ridder. And for what it's worth, given the specific matchup against the Giants, I think it's favorable for the Wilson to Wilson connection. Um, these are all good options. They're all really strong options. Honestly, Astro, my final thought here is get on your commission. Tell them to add an extra wide receiver spot in the offseason so that you can play at least two of these guys moving forward. If this is a start two wide receiver league, that's not enough. I only play in start two wide receiver leagues if the buy-in is like $40 or less. If I'm spending, if the buy-in is rock solid, I want to play the players that I am drafting. I don't want to have to be constantly benching good players. I will stay on this until the cows come home. Every competitive league, the ones that y'all take the most seriously, the ones that y'all care about the most, the ones that you have the most stake in, your home league, whatever you want to call them, you should start three receivers. Or at least a couple other flex spots. I guess I would go Wilson, but if your gut's telling you London because the Titans are a train wreck in the secondary, that's fine too. I just can't trust the Falcons' offense for fantasy purposes week to week. I just can't, especially on the. Are they at home or are they on the road? I think they're on the road. I'm double checking. They're on the road. Yeah, see, like that's tough. I don't know that I trust the Falcons offense. That's my only issue. I don't know if I trust the Falcons offense. Let's see, Iron. Would I start Kincaid in DFS? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got 8 for. Is this just for? So this is the full Sunday slate because you're looking at other players that are playing on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, who else is a better bang for your buck than Dalton Kincaid at tight end? The only concern there is the Bucs have not given up a ton of yards on a per game basis to opposing tight ends. But the Bills are at home. Josh Allen is not your average quarterback. And last week, Kincaid had 8 for 75. Dawson Knox is not factoring in tonight. I guess my question, Iron, is I don't know, like, is Evan Engram more expensive? Is like Taysom Hill more expensive? Taysom Hill might be the Taysom Hill might be the value at tight end for DFS purposes. But if not, Kincaid is probably a close second with how much he costs. If Taysom Hill is more okay, Ingram's 18, so that's not worth it. Well, I would be curious to know Taysom Hill's cost. I'd be curious to know Taysom Hill's cost. If it's cheaper than 13, that's probably where I would go. But if Taysom Hill costs more than Dalton Kincaid, then I would probably do Dalton Kincaid. I'm firing him up in a season-long league tonight. I had Musgrave. Musgrave hasn't practiced the past couple of days. He's probably not going to play. So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine firing Kincaid up tonight in DFS lineups. I'm perfectly fine with that. I am starting going back up to the top. I am starting Chris Godwin tonight, but I don't know who your other options are. That's the only thing. But in full PPR, I mean, this is a good matchup for Chris Godwin. Game script, by the numbers, whatever have you. Obviously, no Tre'Davious White anymore for the Buffalo Bills. Um, Godwin is on the injury report, but he's reportedly fine. It's been called a minor neck injury. So we're expecting a full complement of snaps for Chris Godwin tonight, and they're going to need him if they want to make this competitive at all. So it depends on who your other options are. Taysom Hill's listed as a quarterback iron. All right, then hell yeah. Fire up Kincaid. Screw it. I don't know that there's a better bang for your buck costing only 13. He's got the job to himself at home. Allen looks for the tight end in the red zone. That is an historical thing. Dawson Knox has caught a decent amount of touchdowns over the past couple of years in the red zone. It's where Allen likes to look when the field shrinks down. I like Kincaid tonight in your DFS lineup, especially if he's like $5-6 cheaper than some of the other top options. So if you can't play Hill at tight end in DFS, I would fire up Kincaid. Yeah. If he catches 4 for 40, that's a dub. You're hoping he gets the score, though. Let's see. You have to flex either Kincaid or Gabe Davis. First of all, again, I will always public service announcement. Move those Thursday night football players out of your flex. I'll get to the question, but keep that flex open for somebody who's playing on Sunday or Monday. Maximize your flexibility, pun intended. Put those players in a position like if you have a starting tight end who is whether it's Kittle or Hawkinson or whatever, if you're thinking about starting Kincaid, put him in the flex, or excuse me, put him in the tight end spot and put the other tight end in the flex. Always, always, always put your Thursday night football players in a position spot. Unless you're using, Dalton Kincaid and Cade Otton tonight. Always, always, always put those guys in a position spot to maximize your flexibility for the evening or for the weekend. Excuse me. I guess I would say between Kincaid or Gabe Davis, I prefer Kincaid in a vacuum, but it's two different positions. Who are your other wide receivers? Gabe is a boom bust wide receiver 3. I guess it's a two-part question that I would ask if you could follow up on with some more context. Who are your other wide receivers, and how desperate are you for like a ceiling play? Are you playing a team where it's just like, I need upside? I need like 10 points isn't going to cut it. If I only get 4 points, but I'm shooting for 20 because Gabe can have a big game, then so be it. It depends on can you play it safe? Do you need to play for upside? And who are your other wide receivers? That would be something that I would want to know. Yeah, that's still something I would want to know. Steven, appreciate the Superman. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. Should you pick up Charbonnet with Walker hurt? So Walker did miss practice yesterday, but apparently it was just a precaution. I don't necessarily think that this is a concern yet. We haven't seen any updates about practice reports for the Seattle Seahawks tonight. Let me see if I can find anything either from Underdog Fantasy, which usually provides some practice report updates. Let's see. It doesn't look like there's anything here. Doesn't look like there's anything here. All right, so we don't have practice reports for them yet. There's one beat reporter that I follow for the Seattle Seahawks on Twitter. Let me see if he has anything. Um, let's see. I don't see anything about Kenneth Walker. I don't see anything about Kenneth Walker. Apparently, this is just a precaution with Walker. He was on the injury report a lot last year, and he always played through it. So I wouldn't put too much stock into Walker's absence unless he misses practice tomorrow on Friday. So I'm not rushing to the wire to add Charbonnet. I actually just dropped him in a 10-team league. 12-team league, you probably hang on to him, but in 10-team leagues where there's a bit of a squeeze, plus on Sleeper, you can't adjust your lineup if you have ineligible IR guys. So I had to drop Charbonnet. I didn't want to do it, but I have other viable running back options, so I had to just kind of sever ties. I'm not putting too much stock into Walker missing practice on a Wednesday. He was on the injury report a lot last year, and he always played through it. And it sounds like, based on the comments that we do have from Pete Carroll, it was that this was just a precaution for Walker. I'm not rushing to the wire to grab Charbonnet. I don't think that this is much of a development yet. As for who you need between some of these options, Dell, Downs, Lockett, Cooper, Tank Dell gets the Panthers on the road coming out of the bye. Downs gets the Saints at home. It's not a bad spot. Lockett has been tough to trust this year. And it's a tough matchup against the Browns, even though Josh Downs just cooked the Browns last week. Or Amari Cooper, who had a really good week with PJ Walker week 7, but had a bad week with him last week. In half PPR, I guess I would roll the dice on Cooper, I think. I would roll the dice on Cooper. He is a little tough to trust because of last week's performance, but he did have 8 targets. He only had 2 catches, but he did have 8 targets. So he's obviously a mainstay in what they want to do. And generally speaking, backup quarterbacks key on their top options. And obviously that's Amari Cooper. Like, backup quarterbacks are more likely to be first read, get it out. Amari Cooper is going to be the first read at least 8 to 10 times on Sunday. It's risky, it's dicey, but we have seen Amari Cooper have a good week with PJ Walker. It just happened week 7. I would probably go back to the well with Amari Cooper, especially because Cooper probably got a little screwed up through no fault of his own because Deshaun Watson tried to play last week when he clearly wasn't ready. So they're going to go into this game from the jump with PJ Walker, who at least is healthy, doesn't have a shoulder injury the way that Watson does. That probably threw things into a twist for the Browns offense for a little while, and it probably led to not as good of a performance for Amari Cooper. That's not going to be the case this week. They're going to go with PJ Walker from the jump. I think that actually provides a little bit of a stabilizer for Amari Cooper. I would lean Cooper and just kind of hope for the best. We've seen him have a good game with PJ Walker just 2 weeks ago. So I wouldn't rush to the wire to grab Charbonnet unless you have a roster spot that you can truly, unless there's somebody that you can truly move on from. None of those wide receivers, by the way. I would keep all those guys over Charbonnet. And I would go Cooper and just hope for the best. Hope that the fact that they're starting with PJ Walker from the jump adds a little bit of stability to the Browns offense, which was not the case last week. I appreciate the super, Steven. Thank you so much. Hopefully that helps. And let me know if you need anything else with that. And real quick, Flash Rider, I see your follow-up here. Your other wide receivers are Ridley and London. If you want to play it safe, I would play, in this situation, I would play London. In full PPR, Guess I would still play Ridley over Gabe. Um, and then I guess who's your other tight end? Give me one more. Give me what if you want to play it safe. Kincaid might be the safe option, and Gabe is the boom bust wide receiver 3. Even though at home he should be a little safer, but I'd be curious to know who your other tight end is, just for like full context of what we're working with. Um, Pitts or Kincaid this week? I would go Kincaid. Again, I don't trust the Falcons. I know that Kyle Pitts had a couple of decent weeks. What happened last week with him? It wasn't good. I know he had that real nice one-handed catch because Desmond Ridder threw a terrible ball, so Pitts had to make an incredible play. I'm telling you, man, once they get a freaking quarterback. Yeah, he's back to being the tight end, 3 for 47 yards. Pitts hasn't been better than the tight end 16 in any road game this year. And he's on the road in a tougher matchup by the numbers against the Titans. I do not trust the Falcons. It's not that I don't trust Pitts. I don't trust the Falcons' offense. They got Van Jefferson more involved last week than Kyle Pitts. Arthur Smith is adult. Like, he's adult. He probably he eats pizza slices with a knife and fork. The guy is corny as hell and doesn't know how to run an offense. I would stream Dalton Kincaid over Pitts, and maybe that's a little ballsy. I could get burned for that just because Pitts is such a freak. But I'll take Kincaid catching passes from Josh Allen at home with the job to himself over Kyle Pitts catching passes on the road from Desmond freaking Ridder. Kincaid, I would stream Kincaid tonight over Kyle Pitts. And it's not Kyle Pitts' fault. It's Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder. I would go Kincaid. All right, trade question. You gave up Saquon and Stroud for Cousins and Nico. You have ETN, Spears. Okay. Is this a super flex league? I would be curious. Oh, your receivers are Amon-Ra, Puka, and now you have Nico, who leapfrogs Palmer and Smith and Jigba. That's a big loss at running back without getting a running back in return. ETN's been nice. Spears is a stash. Henderson's probably a short-term guy. Charbonnet and Bigsby haven't really done anything yet, although I guess if Kenneth Walker is in fact banged up to the point where he needs to miss a game, then he does gain a lot of value. It feels like a big drop off. That's a big drop off at running back. Nico's been good. I mean, you solidified you have a nice collection of wide receivers to lean on. And you can ETN is an every week slam dunk, but Spears, Henderson, Charbonnet, Bigsby, that's a tough collection of guys to try to figure out week to week. Unless, I mean, you're praying that Derrick Henry gets traded and Spears becomes the dude. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a big drop off at running back. If you can find a way to get another running back, I would be wanting to do that. I don't mind moving off of Saquon if you're concerned about his end of season availability. I don't think that I could take the quarterbacks aside. Like, take the quarterbacks out of it. I wouldn't accept if somebody offered me Nico Collins and I was sending Saquon Barkley, I would not say yes to that. I don't think I would say yes to that. Because now who's your RB2? Is it going to be Darrell Henderson this week? I guess that's fine for like the short term. But when Kyron Williams comes back week 12, I guess you're pretty much hoping that Derrick Henry is gone from the Titans in the next week and Tajay Spears can become the guy for the Titans. Therefore, he becomes a slam dunk in your starting lineup. That would be the only thing. Yeah. If you can find a way to get a depth running back somewhere, one specific running back I like currently as a buy low is Joe Mixon. For anybody who's looking for some running back help and is maybe trying to find something on the cheap relative to expectations, I like Joe Mixon. I expect the Bengals to be a lot better on offense than they have been to start the season, and Mixon is getting all of the work in the Bengals backfield. Tough matchup this week against San Francisco, but they're past their bye week. Burrow should be a little healthier and continue to get healthier with this calf injury moving forward. And Mixon is getting all of the opportunities in the backfield this year. It hasn't necessarily translated yet to consistent fantasy production, but he's been decent despite the fact that the Bengals have been kind of rough on offense. I would say if you could find a way, it's kind of for everybody. If you're looking for some running back help and you're looking for a buy low, I would be looking around and see who has Joe Mixon and see if you can dangle something without breaking the bank to see if you can get him. That's a guy I like as a buy low at this current moment. Let's see. Start 2 in full PPR between Dotson, Sanders, and Zach Moss. Dotson is like really, really tough to trust right now. Did he goose egg last week? Or was it the week before that? I've lost track. He has become like a fantasy non-factor. 5 for 43 last week. Okay. And what is the status of Sanders? Is he practicing? And we're expecting a potential committee with Chuba Hubbard. He did get a full practice in on Sunday. But I mean, he's got 190 carries, or excuse me, 60 carries for 190 yards. It's like 3 yards a carry. That's not good. And he's got 15 catches on 24 targets. Oof. But it is a good matchup. Dotson is so freaking difficult to trust, although his one decent week this year did come against his opponent this week, the Eagles, although it took a last-second touchdown for him to come through. The running backs, Moss and Sanders, and just hope for the best. It's probably what I would do. Moss and Sanders and just hope for the best. That's probably what I would do. As far as Stroud versus Goff, it's a coin flip. I like Goff at home. There's nothing scary about the matchup against the Raiders. Stroud is on the road against the Panthers. Ooh, that's number 1 overall pick versus number 2 overall pick this year. That's Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. There could be a little extra motivation for CJ Stroud there coming out of their bye week. I don't mind Stroud. He's probably going to be fine. I would take Goff at home, most likely. It's a good spot for both. The Panthers don't have much of anything on defense. Meanwhile, the Lions are looking to bounce back after they got absolutely blown out against the Ravens, and they're at home, prime time against the Raiders. Nothing scary about that. Oh man, I would say both are good options. I know that doesn't necessarily help. Um, this is more of a gut call. I'd lean Goff slightly just because he's at home, but either one should do really well. I guess if you want, if we're splitting hairs, at least the Raiders have Max Crosby. The Panthers have. What's the deal with Brian Burns? Is he playing? Yeah, he's out there. All right, so it's like both defenses have like one solid pass rusher and then a bunch of meh. So I'd say that's a true toss up, but I would slightly lean Goff just because he's at home. Either should be good though. Truly, they're both top 12 options this week. Both top 12 options this week. DJ Moore, Rashad White, Deontay Johnson, or Christian Watson. You can only start one of these guys in full PPR. Uh Man, Rashad White. He's dicey because the Bucs are not good at running the ball. What did DJ Moore do last week with Badgen? I feel like he had like a touchdown, but it was dropped or called back. Was that the case? Am I remembering that correctly? 8 catches for 54 yards. That's pretty good. Badgen in one game, or is it Bajent? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Badgen in one game looked more competent than Justin Fields. Rashad White is a floor play. The Packers have the Vikings on the road, or they're at home. DJ Moore got 15 targets last week. And the Chargers are giving up a lot of production to opposing wide receivers. If it's full PPR, I like Rashad White and the spot that he's in tonight. I really do. But Rashad White might be your safe play here. It's a good matchup for Deontay as well. I might chase the volume of DJ Moore. I'll chase the volume of DJ Moore in full PPR, but I will say this is if there's one decent matchup that Rashad White has on the slate on his schedule this year, this is one of them. This is one of them. The Bills are giving up decent production on the ground. I give the slight nod to DJ Moore. I'll chase the volume, and he's in a great matchup against the Chargers secondary, which isn't very good. Slight nod to DJ Moore. It's close. It's unfortunate that you can only play one of those 4 guys. I'd be curious to know if you can only start 2 wide receivers in that league. I have homework for every single person this offseason. If y'all only start 2 wide receivers in the leagues you care about the most, get on your commissioner's ass and about adding a 3rd receiver spot or a 2nd flex. That is y'all's job at the end of the season. Just be like, hey, while fantasy football is still fresh before everybody departs for the winter and the spring, let's add a 3rd wide receiver spot starting next year. Food for thought. Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield. Love is on the road against the Vikings, right? Or he's at home against the Vikings. So that's good. Baker's, playing tonight against the Bills. Neither is in a great spot. Love hasn't looked very good recently. Um, is this a one quarterback league where you're thinking between Baker and where you're between Baker and Love? Is this a one quarterback league? Like oh man, is Goff out there? Hell, is Garoppolo out there? Is Sam Darnold out there? Darnold's a better like they're playing Cincinnati and sounds like Purdy's not going to go this week. Darnold wouldn't have Debo, but he would have McCaffrey, Ayuk, and Kittle. Um, yeah, it's just a tough spot. Love hasn't been. Baker's tough to trust on the road on a short week, but game script is in his favor. As for Love, 180 passing yards, 2 scores and a pick last week. He ran for 20 yards. That's good. He's been decent running the ball this year. Love has been. I guess I would go Love over Mayfield. If that's your best option, I would go Love. I would go Love over Baker. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, bro. Yeah, I'll go Love over Baker. Kincaid or Kittle? I mean, we got to go Kittle. I know that Kincaid is a good stream tonight, but Kittle is a weekly must start. Kincaid is a great option for people who don't have George Kittle. But if you have George Kittle, you got to fire him up. And it's one more week with no Debo. 5 for 78 last week for Kittle. Got to imagine he picks up another 7 or 8 targets in what could be a shootout against Cincinnati. And I know that Darnold's going to play instead of Purdy, so that hurts him a little bit. If you really want somebody who, just has a better quarterback, I can't. Even with Sam Darnold, I can't sit Kittle for Kincaid. Kittle's numbers just go up when Debo Samuel doesn't play. It's got to be Kittle. Kincaid is trendy tonight. Kittle is a mainstay. Got to play Kittle. Let's see where are we at. Iron, I got your stuff for DFS. I like Kincaid for DFS. But for season long, it's got to be Kittle. What's the read on Chase Edmonds versus Keyshawn Vaughn? I have to trust either one of them. I guess Edmonds has a chance to get a little bit more involved as a pass catcher. Given the matchup, but it's his first game back from wasn't he was on IR, right? They had to activate him off IR. And they don't run like the Bucs already don't run the ball very well. Edmonds is ready for Thursday Night Football. I'm just reading the sleeper. Yeah, he could take some snaps. If you're looking for a dart throw in DFS, which I totally understand, you're looking for somebody who's not going to be in a lot of other lineups. I probably lean Edmonds over Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn, 4 carries for 7 yards last week. He had, 4 carries for 7 yards last week, 6 carries for 9 yards the week prior. Week 4, it was a week 5 bye for the Bucs. Week 4, he had 9 carries for 16 yards. I mean, the dude's not even averaging 2 yards a carry. Not Keyshawn Vaughn. If you're looking for a dart throw for just tonight, for like a DFS lineup for just tonight, I would say Edmonds. I would say Edmonds. Might get a little bit more. Might mix in a little bit more. I would say Edmonds is the guy who might mix in a little bit more for your DFS dart throw. Not Vaughn. Not Vaughn. Okay, I got a couple member questions down at the bottom, so I got to make sure I get to those. What's going on, Fortune? Good to see you, bro. Let's see. You're thinking of dropping the Dallas defense. I mean, the Kansas City defense has proven that they can be trusted rest of season. And I would say they are one of the top 2 or 3 options this week against Denver. And they're probably not going to be worse than a top 5 option any given week this year, because not only are they much improved, but just Patrick Mahomes gives his team leads to work with in a vacuum. Patrick Mahomes plays winning football, gives the Chiefs leads to work with, gives the defense opportunities to make plays as a result. And the Chiefs defense is just so much. The difference was they didn't have a ton of talent on deep, or they weren't very good the past couple of years. And it was just Patrick Mahomes being awesome, being the Chiefs offense being elite because of Patrick Mahomes. Now their defense is good. The defense is much improved. They're a good unit independent of Patrick Mahomes, but they have Patrick Mahomes giving them leads on the other side of the ball, which puts the defense in opportunistic situations, which allows them to make plays with a lead, allows them to tee off on the quarterback in obvious passing situations, get sacks, and potentially force turnovers. For rest of season, I probably still like the Cowboys more than like the Seahawks. Rest of season, the Cowboys are still a very good option. They're a very good option. I don't like the Seahawks more than the Cowboys rest of season. But I do like the Chiefs over almost everybody rest of season. I would play the Chiefs this week and then just hang on to the Cowboys unless you're desperate for a roster spot, Greg. But Kansas City, man, that defense, they're looking real strong rest of season. They're good, and they got Patrick Mahomes to give them the lead. Pretty good recipe for success. Let's see, Fortune. You got some running backs to sort through. Between Foreman, Roshan returned to practice. Did he clear concussion protocol? I think I saw that he was removed from that. And yes, KC over Dallas rest of season. For me, it's like KC over damn near everybody rest of season. So yes. Roshan's out of concussion protocol, so he's cleared to play against the Chargers. I don't know how you take Foreman off the field, though, after the performance he had last week. Nothing scary about the matchup against the Chargers. But you also got Jalen Warren, Jeff Wilson, Miles Sanders. Foreman and Warren? Foreman and Warren? Warren delivered last week. He only had 6 carries for 32 yards, but he did get a touchdown. Like, I feel Najee had a decent week last week of all, just when everybody was predicting that Warren would take over that backfield, Najee still ended up with 14 carries. But Warren was the one who was over 5 yards a pop, and Harris is still averaging less than 4 yards a carry. Foreman and Warren? I don't trust Miles Sanders unless you are out of options. And I think there are a couple of decent enough players here that you have that I would roll the dice on other guys other than Sanders. Wilson can't be trusted right now. I don't want to fire him up. I would probably go Foreman and just ride the wave, and I would just go Warren and hope that him being the more explosive player in that backfield leads to some decent production. Roshan, first game back, Sanders practicing in full, but they alluded to it being a committee with Chuba Hubbard. Sanders has not been good this year. I would probably go Warren and Foreman. Vita Vea is still a game time decision. We have no update on him. I wonder if Sleeper has an update on him. True game time decision. That's not an update. All right, let's check the Bucs Twitter account. Vita Vea. Okay, Vita Vea is out tonight. Vita Vea is inactive. Get James Cook into those lineups, baby. I would get James Cook into your lineups. No Vita Vea is a massive, massive hole in the Bucs front four. Find a way to get James Cook into those lineups. I gotta text my buddy and make sure he gets James Cook into that lineup. Get James Cook into those lineups tonight. But anyway, Fortune, I would go Foreman, just ride the wave, and then I would go Warren. And I would go Warren, and just hope that he can be a change of pace playmaker out of the backfield. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you need any more clarity on anything. Let me go back up closer to the top wherever I left off. Let's see. Which defense is a good start for this week? Lions are at home against the Raiders. Chargers are at home against the Bears, but they stink. The Seahawks, because they're playing PJ Walker. The Seahawks. That's a good start this week. And they've been pretty solid. They've got at least 2 sacks in every game since week 2. They had 4 last week, 3 the week before. They've forced at least 1 turnover 4 of 6 games this year. And they're at home. I would say Seattle. And they're playing PJ Walker. And the Browns also don't have Jerome Ford. They're missing multiple guys. They're missing their starting quarterback. Not that that's a huge loss for the Browns right now. And they're down Jerome Ford. Seattle's defending home turf, and they've got sacks in they've got sacks. They've got multiple sacks in every game since week 2. They killed the Giants for 11 sacks. We're not ever predicting 11 sacks in any one game, but they killed the Giants for 11 sacks. They had 4 last week, 3 the week before, and they've got at least 1 turnover in 4 of 6 games this year against a backup quarterback. I would go Seahawks. I would go Seahawks. I'll go Seahawks. Hey, Sam, what's going on, man? Appreciate the super. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Um, Michael Thomas, Tank Dell. So we got Thomas is on the road against the Colts. He caught a touchdown last week. Yeah, he's on the road against the Colts, and we got Tank Dell on the road against Panthers. But that's a good spot. That's a good spot for Tank Dell. Robert Woods is not going to play for Houston, so that's going to free up some opportunities for Tank Dell. I would say Michael Thomas. I would say Dell is like a boom bust sleeper, and Michael Thomas is a little bit more of like a safe-ish floor play. Also, real talk, is Chris Olave going to play this week after getting arrested? Man, he really needed to make that run to Target. Not listed on the practice report. Does that mean he's not on the injury report, or he's not practicing? He was great. Okay, he was in the wake of his arrest. There seemingly has been no change in his standing with the Saints. Okay. So Olave's going to play by the looks of it. It doesn't look like the team is going to punish Chris Olave. Colts defense has been a decent matchup for opposing wide receivers, but the Panthers are just not good on defense at all. Well, they're not really good at anything except for Adam Thielen. That's about it for the Panthers. But I slightly lean Thomas as like your safe-ish floor play, but I would say if you need upside, if you're looking at your situation and you're just like, I could use some upside, 10 points isn't going to cut it. I need to swing for a little bit more. And if I get less, then so be it. Then Tank Dell. But I would tentatively say Thomas is the guy that you want to fire up. Caught the touchdown last week. Thomas has 6 or more targets in every game this year. He's got 8 or more in 4 of 7 matchups. Has at least 4 catches in 7 of 8 games this year. Thomas is your floor play. Dell is your ceiling play. And then between Kincaid or Engram. So Kincaid has the job to himself tonight. Dogs barking at other people outside. Relax, bud. Kincaid has the job to himself tonight. No Dawson Knox. The Bucs haven't given up a ton of production to opposing tight ends, but it's Josh Allen we're talking about. Meanwhile, Engram is in a really good matchup. If you want to stack it up with Josh Allen, that's fine. But in a vacuum, I would probably go Engram. Did Zay Jones practice today, or is he missing yet again? That might be the key here. Zay Jones, non-participant. So he's going to miss another game. In the games that Zay Jones hasn't played, Engram has been the tight end 9, the tight end 7, the tight end 10, and then a couple of blah performances the past couple of weeks, but still finishing as a top 15 tight end. Ingram has at least 7 targets in every game since week 1. It's not a great matchup by the numbers against the Steelers, but Ingram has been a big part of the Jags offense. Meanwhile, Kincaid had 8 for 75 last week. In a vacuum, I slightly lean Ingram. However, the fact that you have Allen maybe pushes it like, okay, then create the stack. And I would say Kincaid has a little bit more upside with no Dawson Knox. So I slightly lean Thomas over Dell, all things equal. I slightly lean Thomas over Dell. I slightly lean Ingram over Kincaid, but the fact that you have Allen, it's fine to bump Kincaid over Ingram if you prefer the stack. Kincaid has the job to himself, and Josh Allen likes throwing to the tight end in the red zone. That is an historical thing with Josh Allen. He looks for tight ends in the red zone when the field shrinks. Dawson Knox has caught a lot of scores in the red zone over the past couple of seasons. That is now Kincaid's job exclusively. If you need home run swings, if you're like, I need to shoot for the moon, then that for me would be Dell and then stacking Kincaid with Allen. The moonshots are Tank Dell and stacking Kincaid with your quarterback. Yeah. The safe plays are Thomas and Ingram. The moonshots are Dell and Kincaid. And if you have Allen, then fire up Kincaid. And if you need the moonshot, then I would say Dell over Thomas. Appreciate the Superman. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Where did I leave off? Yeah, so we got to just keep an eye on the Seahawks situation. Have we got any recent updates about whether did Walker practice today? I had to drop Charbonnet because of a numbers crunch. We still haven't received practice reports about the Seattle Seahawks, so I don't know what's going on. I think Walker's injury is precautionary. But Charbonnet is limited as well. He's dealing with injuries of his own. So let's put it this way. I'm not that enthusiastic about Zach Charbonnet this week because they're playing the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns are not a good matchup for opposing running backs. So either way, Walker you have to fire up. But if Walker can't go for whatever reason, I'm not necessarily enthusiastic about Charbonnet. Not against the Browns. Gibbs or Kamara. You can only play one of those dudes in full PPR. I mean, Kamara is getting absolutely insane usage right now. I mean, both are top 8 options at running back this week. You can't if you can't play both. If you can't play both, then I guess Kamara's usage is absolutely outrageous right now. Gibbs had his coming out party. Gibbs had a great game against the Ravens. But Kamara might be one of the safest players in fantasy right now. If you can't play both, then I would go Kamara. If you can't play both, I would go Kamara. I mean, yeah, since he came back, his usage is insane. In 3 of 4 games, he's got 7 catches, 12 catches, and 13 catches. Like, dude's been on fire since he came back from the suspension. And the game where he only caught 3 balls, he went for 80 on the ground and a score. So he's doing it regardless. I think it's got to be Kamara. It's got to be Kamara. Let's see. Where did I leave off? You're starting McCaffrey, Tyreek, and Andrews. Slam dunks. I don't know how many other starting spots you have. I think Evans is a must start tonight. Walker, if he plays, is a must start tonight. I don't know how many flex spots you have, but you got to play Devontae. You got to find a way to get Devontae Adams in there. I would say, I don't know how many spots you have, but Walker, Evans tonight, and Adams have to be in there. I probably wouldn't flex Kincaid since you have Andrews. Evans, Devontae, if you can. Walker, if Walker's healthy, then Walker's got to be in there probably over Devontae. But since we don't currently know, I would definitely get Evans in there. Aaron Jones is a toss-up right now. He doesn't appear to be himself since he suffered that hamstring injury. And then Kincaid and Downs are at the back end of these options. I don't see any obvious ways to improve on this roster, G Soccer. I think it's pretty strong. I think it looks pretty good. You have Brees. You have the best receiver in the game. You've got good other ancillary wide receivers to turn to. You have my favorite. You have my favorite stash right now in Tajay Spears. Add Tajay Spears if he's still available on waivers. I put a video about that on the channel yesterday. If you haven't seen it, find a way. If you're one of those leagues where he's still available in 50% of leagues, get him on your roster. I don't see too many obvious choices here. I think you're fine. I think you're good. As far as Hunter, Aaron Jones, I'm going Kareem Hunt. He's got the job to himself, and he's practicing in full, I believe, on Thursday. Aaron Jones is still, I think he's still a little hobbled from that hamstring injury. I would go Hunt. Greg, sorry, I'm just catching your second question. You're thinking Wilson and Nico this week. I don't mind Cooper. London's got a really good matchup, but I don't trust the Falcons' offense. Arthur Smith eats slices of pizza with a fork and knife. I don't trust the Falcons, even though London's got a really good matchup. The Titans' secondary is bad, and they just traded Kevin Byard, so they're even worse now. So I like the matchup. I just hate the coach and quarterback for Drake London. I like Wilson's matchup this week. Going against the Giants, that's a good spot. Nico's in a good spot. I think Nico's in a good spot to fire off. And then, yeah, I guess I would go Garrett Wilson as my second guy there. I think that's fine. I think the guys that you have are fine. London is in a great matchup. I just don't trust the Falcons. I don't trust the Falcons. They are the most untrustworthy offense in the NFL. I like the matchup for Drake London. I don't like the offense. London is a floor play. I'll say Wilson is a little bit more of a ceiling play. And then I think you're on target with Nico. Nico for sure. I'll say Wilson ceiling, London floor, but the floor is lower for your average floor play with London because they're on the road, and I don't trust that offense. Don't trust that offense. It's a great matchup though. It's a great matchup for Drake London, for what it's worth. It's just good luck. Good luck trying to predict and project whatever Desmond Ritter might do. Who the hell knows? Let's see. Where are we at? Cap, I just saw this question. Do you package Nico and Henderson for Eckler? If you can, Austin Eckler's got a really strong playoff schedule or rest of season schedule in general. The two running backs I like as a potential buy low. I mean, you're still going to have to give up top dollar for a guy like Austin Eckler, but Eckler's a good buy if you can get him, even though he hasn't done a whole lot yet this year. His schedule is great. And Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's a good buy low. He's been solid, but he hasn't exactly popped this year. That's because the Bengals offense has not been very good so far. They're past their bye. You figure Burrow is getting healthy from the calf injury. I expect that offense to be on the upswing for the rest of the season. And Mixon is getting all the work in that backfield. I think for the first time in his career. Samaje Perine's not there to vulture receiving work. And Mixon's getting every red zone opportunity for Cincinnati as well. Eckler and Mixon are guys that I like as buy low at the running back position. Buy low, I mean, Eckler, you're still going to have to give up a premium piece. But he's not as untouchable as he may have been in previous seasons. I can't imagine. Stroud or Cousins, and either Singletary or Roschon. Well, Singletary, Dameon Pierce is. There's nothing wrong with Dameon Pierce, right? Last I checked, anyway. It's a good matchup. That's the thing. Singletary versus Roschon. Roschon is back from concussion protocol. He will play this week. What that backfield breakdown looks like is anyone's guess. Donta Foreman had a career week last week, so maybe we don't necessarily expect that to happen again. So you figure Roschon gets a little bit more involved, but I guess I would take, because there's a little bit of uncertainty with Roschon, I guess I would take Singletary in a spectacular matchup. Oh, the issue is the offensive coordinator made comments that Singletary might actually be a better fit for the offense than Dameon Pierce, and so there could be a bit of a split. Yeah, that's a great matchup. I'll take Singletary over Roschon. We just don't, Foreman might still operate as the dude. They might give Foreman the benefit of the doubt, the hot hand approach or whatever from the Chicago Bears, because Foreman had a great week this past week against the Raiders. So, like, what does Roschon's role look like? Don't know. I guess I would say Singletary. As far as your quarterbacks, Cousins had a spectacular game on Monday night against the 49ers because, of course, he did. Now he goes on the road against the Packers, so it's a division game, a little bit of a tougher spot. He still doesn't have Justin Jefferson, but holy hell, Jordan Addison looks good. He could have had an even bigger day. Cousins just barely missed him in the back of the end zone. I think it was in the second quarter. He could have had 3 scores. Jordan Addison looks rock solid, man. So that's a real nice boost for Cousins, given the loss of Justin Jefferson. But meanwhile, Stroud is in a great spot as well, and Stroud has looked really good. And Stroud has his full complement of well, he doesn't have Robert Woods. But he does have Nico Collins, and he does have Tank Dell. And Dalton Schultz has reemerged as like, oh, yeah, this guy is actually solid since he signed with the team in the offseason. It was looking bleak the first couple of weeks, but then it was like, oh, wait, Stroud is rock solid and probably should have been the first overall pick. Because Cousins is in a division game, I always look at division games and I always think to myself, like, maybe let's temper expectations a small amount compared to any other matchup. Um, Cousins is coming off a spectacular game against the 49ers, but this is a little bit of a tougher matchup against it's not tougher than the 49ers, but it's still a tough matchup by the numbers against the Packers, um, and on the road. Let's go ahead and do stat muse. What are Kirk Cousins' career numbers versus the Packers? So I love doing this type of stuff, even though it doesn't matter. Every game is independent of other games. But last year on the road against Green Bay, Cousins had 205 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. The previous season on the road, 160 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but that wasn't very good. Cousins' best performance in Green Bay in Lambeau came in 2018, where he threw for 425 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was 5 years ago. On the whole, Cousins has not been great against the Packers on the road. So if you want to follow the trends of history, I might actually say Stroud here. I might actually say Stroud. Stroud and Singletary. Godwin's full go tonight. Doesn't sound like he's going to be on a pitch count. He's been removed from the injury report, and by all accounts, this was a minor injury. They need him tonight. He's safe to fire up, depending on your options. Godwin should be fine, and especially in PPR leagues, he should be safe to fire up. James Cook, Henderson, or Roshan Cook. James Cook for sure. Henderson's got a tough spot against the Cowboys. Roshan might not even be the starter in his first game back after Foreman has been going nuts. And there's no Vita Vea for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. Fire up James Cook. Get him into your lineups. James Cook, definitively. Over Henderson, over Roshan. James Cook, definitively with no Vita Vea. For sure. Let's see. Amari Cooper, Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt, or Javonte in the flex. What's the scoring? Cooper's on the road against Seattle. Edwards is on the road against Arizona. That's not a bad spot. Kareem Hunt has the job to himself, also in Seattle with Cooper. And then Javonte is at home against the Chiefs, where he finally started to look kind of good. That was back in week 6. Was when when he started to kind of like, oh, look, he looks kind of decent. Probably lean Hunt over Javonte, just because he has the job to himself with no Jerome Ford. Gus is in a good spot too. We don't expect him to catch an 80-yard pass again. That's probably not going to happen. But he regularly gets involved. I'll say Hunt. Cleveland probably continues to commit to the run a little bit more with the backup quarterback. And there's no Jerome Ford for Cleveland. There's still Jaleel McLaughlin for Javonte Williams. There's still Justice Hill for Gus Edwards. And while I like Amari still as a floor play, he's playing with he's catching passes from a backup quarterback, and that bottomed out last week for him against Indianapolis. I'll say Hunt. Yeah. Let's see. Mixon, Hunt, or Cook in full PPR. Even though, so yes, I've been pounding the table for James Cook over the past like 20 minutes or so. Now that we know that Vita Vea is out, that is a great spot for him. But I would still probably go Mixon, even in a tough matchup against San Francisco. It's just he's getting all the work for Cincinnati, and they're coming out of their bye week, and the 49ers are down Brock Purdy. So slamming Sammy D, Sam Darnold, he looked okay in a couple of spot opportunities for Carolina last year. And obviously, it's got a great supporting cast in San Francisco, but still a backup quarterback by trade, by nature. I mean, if the Bengals defense can force a favorable spot or two for the Bengals offense, that could help Mixon a little bit more. I would say Mixon, his floor is safer than James Cook. Cook's ceiling might be a little bit higher tonight, but I think Mixon's floor is a lot stronger. 15 touches has been Mixon's floor this year. He doesn't have less than 15 touches in any game. And it's actually not by the numbers an awful matchup against the 49ers. I think I lean Mixon as the floor. Cook might be a more of a ceiling play now, but I lean Mixon, I think, in full PPR. Mixon catches 3, 4, 1, 1, 4, 3. So in 4 of 6 games, he's got at least 3 catches. That's probably going to be the case again, given the game script that's likely against the 49ers. I'll say Mixon still. Cook over a lot of people, but Mixon's maybe not necessarily one of them. Let's see. Where am I at? White versus the Bills or Henderson versus the Cowboys. I would go Rachaad White tonight, and especially in full PPR. Rachaad should have a solid floor in PPR leagues against the Bills. Expect the Bucs to throw. Expect Rachaad to get involved in the passing game. They're not good at running the ball, but the Bills can be had on the ground. I think they're allowing like 5 yards a carry on defense. So this is actually a decent spot for Rachaad White, considering some of his other matchups this year. Versus again, if the decision is Rachaad White or Darrell Henderson against Dallas, I'll take Rachaad White. Should catch some passes in negative game script tonight. Rachaad White. I know Henderson had a solid game last week. Let's see him do it again before I fire him up over somebody like Rachaad, who hasn't been great this year, but he gets the ball. He gets the ball, and he's on the field for 75% of the snaps. I'll take Rachaad White. I got my members, so we can move over those. If any members missed anything that I talked about earlier, please let me know, and I will follow up. Godwin or Watson? Watson's not in a bad spot, but I would take Godwin's floor. I think I would take Godwin's floor. His past 3 games, he has 6 for 66, 6 for 77, and 8 for 114. And even in the first 2 weeks of the season, he had 5 catches in each of those games too. Watson is a home run play, and it's a good matchup against the Vikings for sure. Godwin is your floor play. Watson is a ceiling play if you think you need to take a shot, if you need to swing for the fences. Godwin floor, and I tend to lean Godwin, but Watson is a moonshot play if you think you need to play for a ceiling. Okay, so actually kind of, Joe, I don't know if you caught my answer to Sam's question. I think you guys had the same question, Kincaid or Evan Engram. I lean Engram slightly, but I did recommend Kincaid to Sam because he has Josh Allen. So, chase the stack. It's like a if this then this, right? If you have Josh Allen, then go Dalton Kincaid. Like conversely, if you had Trevor Lawrence, maybe just go Evan Ingram. I slightly lean Ingram for a floor because there's not going to be Zay Jones again. There's no Zay Jones um, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Ingram should be a perfectly safe floor. I'll say Kincaid has a little bit of upside, but I would say his floor is lower than Ingram's. I think Ingram's floor has been pretty solid this year, especially in the games that Zay Jones doesn't play. And Zay Jones has logged back-to-back DNPs, didn't practice to start the week. Like Ingram, 5 for 45, 7 for 41, 4 for 28, 7 for 59, 7 for 67. So like he's got he's got 4 catches in every game. He's got 5 catches in every game but one, and he has at least 6 catches in 4 of 7 games this year. He also hasn't scored a touchdown yet, so you figure regression is eventually going to play in Ingram's favor. So I slightly lean Ingram. But if you have Josh Allen and you're thinking Kincaid or Ingram, then maybe just, stack it up and go Kincaid. But if you don't have Josh Allen, maybe just go Ingram. Let's see. I got through Greg. I got to Fortune. I got to Sam. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming in, and thank you again, Sam, for the super. Let's see. Will King Henry be moved? That is the $1 million question right now before the October 31st trade deadline. If the Titans have the balls to do what is right, they should move Derrick Henry. Let's call a spade a spade. The Titans are, even with the Colts being without Anthony Richardson for the season, the Titans are at the bottom of the AFC South, and not just for this year. They need to hit the reset button in the worst way. Derrick Henry's in the last year of his contract, and he is not going to be back with the team next year again if they are smart. This is a team that needs to look to the future, and by all accounts, they have seen the writing on the wall. They traded Kevin Byard to the Eagles. It's the one good piece in their secondary. They should move Derrick Henry if they want to do what's best for the future of the franchise. And remember, NFL franchises are stubborn as shit, and a lot of times they don't do the right thing. But there's a glimmer of hope that they will do the right thing because they traded Kevin Byard. They should absolutely move Derrick Henry. 100% they should. Will they? I don't know if they have the balls to do it. But they should. So make sure, I will say it until the trade deadline, make sure Tajay Spears is not on waivers. Find a spot on your roster if he is on waivers. Add him. Just in case they do the right thing and trade Derrick Henry. And there's teams that would probably be happy to have him if they can make the salary work. Baltimore. I don't know about Buffalo, but maybe Buffalo. Baltimore feels like an obvious option. Hell, the Cowboys might grab him. I don't know that the Cowboys don't seem interested in engaging in trade discussions right now. That could just be Jera speak. That could just be Jerry throwing noise to the media for the sake of it could be smoke. Could be smoke and mirrors. Maybe they are actually behind the scenes working on a Derrick Henry trade. They could use him. The Ravens could use him. There are at least a couple of contenders that would be happy to add Derrick Henry to their roster as long as they can make the salary work. He is getting paid a ton of money. If the Titans are willing to eat some salary, I'm sure they could get, if they eat half the salary, maybe 3/4 of the salary, I would think they could maybe get a 3rd-round pick for Derrick Henry. If they are willing to eat some salary. But yeah, they should move on from him. They should. Will they? That's another question entirely. Let's see. Love or Badgent? Badgent looked pretty competent last week, didn't he? And it's not a bad matchup against the Chargers. But I think I got to go Love. I think I got to go Love. He's got Christian Watson. He's got Romeo Dubs. I think he's going to have Aaron Jones, maybe a little bit maybe one step closer to being healthy. Badgent's on the road against the Chargers. He looked pretty decent last week, but that still only led to 162 passing yards. He did get a touchdown. He did chip in 24 yards on the ground, but Love has been decently consistent. Chipping in rushing yards, and he's at home. I'll take Love. I'll take Love over Badgent. I'll take Love over Badgent. Badgent looked solid, and there's nothing scary about the matchup against the Chargers, but let's see how he does on the road before we fire him up over Jordan Love, who's playing at home. Start Mostert over Pollard. If you can't play both, did Mostert pick up an injury last week? He had a terrible game against the Eagles, but we don't expect that to happen again. He was limited. He is limited in practice today with an ankle injury. No, I would play Pollard. If you can only play one, I would play Pollard. For all of the issues that Pollard hasn't been, he hasn't matched the lofty expectations that people expected for him this year, but he's still been pretty good, pretty productive. He's got double-digit half PPR points in 4 of 6 games this year. The one game, the Cowboys got shellacked by the Niners. That's a group effort of not playing well. And then his other game, week 4 against New England, they just didn't need to use him because the Cowboys blew the Patriots out. What was that, like 38-0? They just didn't need to use him. That's just luck of the draw. That's just unlucky from a usage perspective because they didn't need him. I would play Pollard over Mostert. I would go back to the well. And Pollard's coming off his bye, so he's fresh. Nothing scary about the matchup against the Rams. I would play Pollard. I would play Pollard. So it's a dynasty league, so you're trading Cousins and Cooper for Goff. That feels like a lot. That feels like a lot to give up. You can't get a wide receiver back in that deal. Especially because, I know it's dynasty, but you can play with a little bit of recency bias and just be like, look what Cousins just did against the 49ers. He manhandled them. You can't, I'd rather have Cousins and Cooper. I know Cooper's got quarterback issues right now, but he's still a good individual talent. Cousins is what, 35, 36? Goff just turned 29, so he is several years younger. I guess that is the factor here, right? Cousins is 6 years older than Goff, so I get it. And Amari Cooper, is he 29 at this point? Yeah, he's 29. So I guess I understand from that perspective, but I don't know. Can you get a depth wide receiver in return? Just to make it a solid 2 for 2? I know Cousins is older. Cooper is probably going to age out in the next 2 or 3 years, but Goff's not exactly a spring chicken. He'll be 30 next year, and It's not like we're not talking about a significant difference in, from a dynasty value perspective in age between these two quarterbacks specifically. Yeah, feels like a little much to give up. Um, you got bye week fill-ins, Joe, that you need to figure out. It depends on matchups. I think I kind of I like Cooks. I like Shaheed, not Burks, not Dotson, not Powell, probably not Wandale. I like Shaheed. I kind of like Shaheed. Depends on I don't know who the Saints are playing these next couple of weeks, but Shaheed always feels like he's, out there making big plays for the Saints. At Indy, and then home against Chicago. Shaheed's in a decent spot. Cooks has the Rams and the Eagles. Cooks might be solid. Cooks might be solid. The Eagles are giving up pretty good production to wide receivers, too. That's his week 9 opponent. Maybe Cooks. Maybe Cooks. Plus, Cooks got a revenge game this week against the Rams. At home. Could be a good spot for him. Standard scoring, one running back, one flex between Foreman, Hunt, Sanders, a lot. Well, Olave's got to be in there. I know he got arrested or whatever, and it sounds like he's going to play. Sounds like he's going to play. So you got to go Olave, and then I guess I would go Kareem Hunt. There's no Jerome Ford for the Browns, and they're probably going to try to run the ball a decent amount. With the backup quarterback in there yet again. I don't trust Miles Sanders. I like Foreman, but Roshan is back. So, does that just become does that become more of a committee than it had been the past couple of weeks for Donta Foreman? Hunt has the backfield to himself, so that's your running back, and then I would put Olave in my flex. I would take those two guys, not Sanders, not Foreman. Would I start Godwin tonight over Nico or Ayuk? No, I like Godwin. And this is full PPR. I like Godwin's floor tonight. He should be fine, but I really like Nico's matchup against the Panthers. Yeah, Ayuk is a little bit tougher to trust without Purdy. I would go Nico. Of those three guys, I would go Nico. Godwin's got a solid floor tonight, but Nico, I think, is the better. I think Nico's the better option and is the clear. He's his team's wide receiver 1, and he's not on the injury report. I'm not concerned about Godwin's injury, but when it's when you're debating between two players, it is a factor. So I'll take Nico. And then Rice or Gabe Davis. Rice has been solid recently. But this could be a good spot for Gabe. I'll say Rice floor, Gabe ceiling if you think you need the upside. Gabe, just when you want to write Gabe Davis off is usually when he goes off for a 40-yard touchdown. Touchdown regression has hit him hard the past couple of weeks. I'll say Gabe is your boom bust play. Like if you need to go all or nothing, I would say Gabe, but I would say Rice is your floor play. And yeah, over the past 3 weeks, he has been pretty solid. Against Denver, yeah, maybe just go Rice. But I wouldn't be surprised if Davis had himself like a 35-yard catch for a score tonight. He's all or nothing. Rice is probably like a safe floor play, and I might just go Rice. Bijan or Ramondre? Yeah, I mean, I hate Arthur Smith. I hate the Falcons offense. I hate what it's become. Last week was last week was bullshit on the Falcons' part. Like that was bush league by them with how they handled the Bijan situation. Um, be upfront with your injury report and all that stuff. Like that should be standard protocol. So they're an impossible team to trust. I would still go back to the well with Bijan. I would still go back to the well with Bijan. Let's call let's chalk last week up as an anomaly. Ramondre has been better the past couple of weeks, and it's a decent spot on the road against Miami. It's not a great matchup for Bijan against the Tennessee Titans, but I'll take the superior player here. Bijan is just the better prospect, and I'll just bet on the talent. Feels tough to trust, but I'll take Bijan. I'll go back to the well with Bijan. Yeah. So Nico over Ayuk and Godwin. I'll say Rice is your safe floor play. Gabe is only if you're desperate. And then I'll take Bijan over Ramondre. Uh, full PPR Kincaid or Pitts. I can't believe we're here. Kincaid. Other than Bijan, I trust Bijan. I don't trust the Falcons. I don't trust Arthur Smith. I don't trust Desmond Ritter. Kyle Pitts is the better player. Kincaid is in the significantly better and safer situation. He's got the role to himself tonight with no Dawson Knox. I'm not playing Kincaid over the obvious guys: Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, I guess Goddard, Waller. And I'll say Laporta is still in that is still above Kincaid as a must start, but he's in a really strong spot tonight. No Dawson Knox, catching passes from Josh Allen at home. I'll take Kincaid. Pitts is the better player, but we can't trust the Falcons offense. I'll take Kincaid. I would stream Kincaid over Kyle Pitts tonight. I would. I would. I don't trust the Falcons. Arthur Smith is a goon. He is a boob. He eats his pizza slices by cutting it up with a fork and knife. I don't like Arthur Smith. I don't think anybody likes Arthur Smith. I'm not even sure if Falcons fans like Arthur Smith. All 6 of them anyway. All right, let's see. Whole lineup help. I don't know what your starting lineup is. Is it 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a flex? I mean, Eckler, Gibbs, Bijan are your 3 running backs. If you can only start 2 wide receivers, is it full PPR? Yeah, I don't know your score. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see full PPR. Sorry, but I don't know how many starting wide receiver spots you have. Me, it's got to be Kirk. Flowers has been good recently. And you have Olave and yeah, I don't know how many starting wide receiver spots you have. I would play those 3 running backs: Eckler, Gibbs, Bijan. Chiefs defense for sure. I think the Chiefs are a top 2 option this week. Play the Chiefs. I don't want to play the Giants, even though that's not a bad matchup against the Jets, but I'll play the Chiefs. They are the better defense. Eckler, Gibbs, Bijan, and then Kirk. I would say Kirk for sure. If you can only start 1 more wide receiver, I would say Flowers. If you can start 2 wide receivers, I would say Flowers and Olave. And then I guess I would go Goddard over Schultz. I'll just take, I think Goddard is still in the must start category for now. Okay, I'm going to try to get to, I know that we're coming up on kickoff, and I know you guys probably want to get to the game. So I do want to try to make sure I get to all these questions. So apologies if you feel like my answer is a little short, but I do want to make sure I get to everybody. Standard scoring, Metcalf versus Kareem Hunt. Uh, man. Hunt floor, Metcalf ceiling, I guess. Not Downs, not Watson. It's between Hunt and Metcalf. Ray, if you can come back either on Saturday or Sunday when we have when we have a little bit better of a feel on DK Metcalf. I know he returned to practice today, but let's see him. Does he practice in full tomorrow? Does Kareem Hunt also practice in full tomorrow? And Metcalf is probably also going to see Denzel Ward. He can beat that matchup, but it's a tough matchup. So I'm kind of leaning Hunt, but I might need to think on that one a little bit more. Hunt at least has the backfield to himself. No Jerome Ford this week. I would play Aubrey as your kicker. Cowboys offense should be perfectly fine at home. They move the ball well. I like Aubrey being attached to that offense. I would go Aubrey. And then I would probably take the Eagles against the Browns. Have the best defense in the Browns probably have the best defense in the NFL, but on the road against Seattle is not a great spot. The Eagles are playing Washington, and they are giving up sacks left and right. The Eagles have a good pass rush. I got to imagine they get to Sam Howell at least 3 or 4 times. I would play the Eagles. I would chase the sacks that Washington is giving up and play the Eagles. All right, cool. Yep, I would play the Eagles, and I would play Aubrey. You traded James Cook and Higgins for Breece Hall? That's actually a 2-for-1 trade I like quite a lot. I don't always like 2-for-1 trades, but you got the best player in that deal in Breece Hall. I like that a lot. Nicely done. Nicely done. Higgins could bounce back and have a better second half of the season if the Bengals offense rounds into form, but I am perfectly fine with giving up those 2 guys for that one guy. Breece Hall is that dude. Nicely done. I like that a lot. And okay, you can play these running backs, but you would have to sit Cousins or Stroud. So is this? I guess this is super flex then. I need to think on this. I like Stroud a little bit more than Cousins. I like Stroud a little bit more than Cousins. Cousins doesn't have a great track record in Lambeau. And Stroud has a great matchup against Carolina. So I would definitely play Stroud over Cousins. The question is, do I want to play Stroud over Mostert, Pacheco? I think the answer is yes. I would sit Mostert. I know that it's tough. I know that it's like this dude's been unbelievable for the most part to start the season, and he could have another great game against New England. But I would play Pollard against the Rams. I would play Eckler against the Bears, especially against the Bears. Pacheco is on a roll right now, so I would keep firing him up, and I would play Stroud over Cousins. So I guess I would sit Mostert. And I would play Pollard, Eckler, Pacheco. I did not hear Dalvin Cook wants to get traded. Good luck to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is burnt toast. He is cooked. Not to get too corny with the play on words, but Dalvin Cook is, if he had more left to give in the tank, he'd be out there. Like, good luck getting traded. Where is he going to get traded to? The Toronto Argonauts? Like, sorry. Dalvin Cook's had a great career. It might be done. And Dylan, really quick, I still like Mixon over Cook, despite the fact that Vita Vea is out. I like James Cook over a lot of players, given the situation. Mixon's not one of them. I would still play Mixon. It's not a terrible matchup by the numbers against the 49ers, and he's getting all the work in that Bengals backfield. And I expect the Bengals to be better in the second half of the season. Now they're past their bye week. Burrow should seemingly be a little bit more healthy now. He's had time to rest. And Mixon has at least 3 catches in 4 of 6 games. You figure that trend continues against the 49ers. I would play Mixon. I would play Mixon. Yeah, I would still play Mixon despite the news about Vita Vea. I like Cook a lot. If there's another way to get him into your lineup, I'm not opposed to it, but I would still play Mixon over Cook. Oh, Damon, you need two between Godwin, Ayuk, Collins. I would play Collins. I would still definitively play Collins. And then between Ayuk and Godwin, Ayuk. I know it's Darnold, but there's no Debo. Ayuk should continue to command 8 to 10 targets, 5, 6 catches, 6, 7 catches. I'll play it safe. Ayuk's not on the injury report. Godwin, I'm not worried about Godwin's injury, but the fact that he was on the injury report and it's a short week on the road, I'll play the guy who's playing on Sunday with the full week of rest. I know it's Darnold, but I'll play Nico and Ayuk. I'll keep those. I'll keep those guys. Collins and Ayuk. Collins and Ayuk. Ayuk's just been really good. I trust that Darnold can feed him 6 or 7 times, especially with no Debo. Especially with no Debo. I'm glad to see everybody else feels the same. I don't think it's not that contentious. Everybody hates Arthur Smith. Everybody hates Arthur Smith. And rightfully so. Let's see. Need to stream a quarterback this week. It sounds like Purdy's not going to go. Carr is playing on the road against Indianapolis. Stafford has the Cowboys. Wilson's got Kansas City. Howell has the Eagles. He didn't do great last week. Against the Giants, Howell didn't have a very good game. Between Carr, Stafford, Howell, sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth between tabs. Oh, and Russ. Russ is going to have to throw. I don't know that I necessarily feel great about that. I might go Stafford. Stafford's just playing good football right now. It's a bad matchup, but at least the Cowboys are without Trayvon Diggs. Stafford is playing well right now. It hasn't necessarily come in the form of a big week for fantasy purposes, but he is playing pretty well right now. And at least he's got Kupp and Puka to throw the ball to. And he's going to have to throw. He's going to have to throw against the Cowboys. I guess I would say Stafford. I guess I would say Stafford. I guess I would say Stafford as your quarterback stream. At least he's going to have to throw. It's close. Mixon versus it's close. But I feel good about the Bengals turning it around on offense coming out of the bye week. Burrow's had time to rest, and Mixon is getting tons of volume. And I think we're having this conversation over in Discord. If you're worried about Mixon, go with your gut. I want to preface, and this is for everybody. I'm only offering my thoughts. At the end of the day, this is your team. This is y'all's lineups. You guys make the call. Go with your gut. If your gut is telling you James Cook over Joe Mixon, go with your gut. Go with your gut. I would still lean Mixon because of the volume, but it is a great spot for James Cook without Vita Vea for Tampa Bay at home. And there's no Damian Harris for Buffalo, so that should continue to funnel a couple more opportunities James Cook's way. If you don't like the spot Mixon is in, I'm not super worried about it. Plus, keep in mind, Yes, the 49ers are going to be playing inspired, but they're playing on a short week and the Bengals just are coming out of their bye week. So the 49ers might be pissed, but the Bengals are rested. I think there's like there's two ways, there's two sides of this coin. If you don't feel good about it, though, then play the guy you feel better about. I can only offer thoughts. This is y'all's. This is your team. This is your lineup. Go with your gut. If your gut is not in agreement with what you're hearing from me, go with your gut. Play the guy that you want to play. If you want to play Cook, if you're scared of, or if you're worried about Mixon, then play Cook. I'm not opposed to. I like the matchup. I like the spot Cook is in. It's two good. It's two good options, um, but go with your gut. If your gut is telling you Cook, go Cook. And I'll reassert that in the Discord. Go with your gut. Everybody, always go with your gut. If you're hearing what I'm saying and you're not picking it up, you're like, I'm not picking up what you're putting down right now. I'm not feeling it. I'm just going to go in the other direction. Go in the other direction. It's your team. And I'm not trying to say that in a dismissive way. This is your team. I'm not trying to like, I want to offer thoughts. I want to offer insight, but I don't want to like, I don't want to, this is not like I'm telling you what to do, you know? Yeah. Go with your gut. Let's see. Garrett Wilson over Ayuk in the flex. That's tough. Ayuk's been really good. Wilson's been a little bit better than I think we could have expected after Rodgers went down. I slightly lean Ayuk just because there's no Debo. It's a wash between Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. I slightly lean Ayuk, but I do think Zach Wilson is in a really good spot this week. The Giants, the matchup very specifically, and this is from the great Graham Barfield of Fantasy Points. The Giants like to blitz a lot. And generally speaking, when Zach Wilson gets blitzed, he's throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson. So the matchup lends to Garrett Wilson seeing a lot of volume this week. I just lean Ayuk. He's been a really dynamic player this year, and no Debo Samuel. He should continue to see plenty of opportunities. What's the Walker news, Greg? Did I miss something? Did he not practice today? Of course, just as soon as I fucking drop Zach Charbonnet. Doesn't practice again today. Oh no. All right. Well, I would go Hunt, Greg. If Walker's out, I would go Kareem Hunt. He's got the job to himself, and it's not a bad matchup against Seattle. And Hunt has been playing pretty well. Henderson's got a tough matchup against Dallas, and just because Demercado, like I don't trust that Arizona backfield. I don't trust that Arizona backfield. You're about to trade for Kirk Cousins and Tyler Higbee. Should you trade away Kmet or Ferguson? So I guess this is like rest of season. Who would I prefer to have, and who would I feel a little bit more comfortable giving up? I guess Kmet. The Bears are a mess. And I know they got a nice win against the Raiders, but that passing offense is going to only they're trending in the wrong direction. I know Badgett had a nice day, but Ferguson still has Dak. The number 2 option in the pecking order behind CeeDee Lamb is musical chairs between Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, and it could be Ferguson some weeks. I would rather have Ferguson than Kmet rest of season. So I guess if you can get away with it, I would trade Kmet. If you can get away with it, I would trade Kmet. All right, let's see. That sucks about the Walker news. Of course, I had to drop Charbonnet in a 10-team league because you're handcuffed between the number of roster spots you have. Unbelievable. It's fine. It's fine. Rashad White's going to go nuts tonight. This is me telling myself that everything is fine as my house burns down around me. All right, let's see. Trade away Flowers, Thielen, Nico, and Jacobs for Swift and AJ Brown. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're getting the best play. AJ Brown's on fire. It's a lot to give up because Jacobs is still like, an RB1 rest of season. It's a lot to give up, but in an 8-team league, you're probably going to have to give up a lot to get premium talent. And you're adding AJ Brown to Chase and Amon-Ra. You still have Pollard. The only thing is, you actually are going to be thin at wide. You're going to be thin at running back if it's just going to be Pollard and Swift. Swift is, I think, a downgrade from Jacobs. And so that's a little dicey. And we are coming up on kickoff here, so I'm going to shut this down shortly, but I will make sure that I get to everybody's question before I do that. Could you give up like Kyron instead of Jacobs since you're giving up like 4 for 2? Could you get away with that and just be like, well, he's going to be back in a couple of weeks? If not, it's not terrible, but keep in mind Swift is good. Swift is capped. He has to come through in a big way in the form of yardage because he's not going to score a lot of touchdowns because he doesn't get those goal line opportunities because Hurts takes them all. Jalen Hurts takes them all. Could you get Jacobs out of there for Kyron and be like, listen, I'm giving you 4 players? Or hell, maybe take Jacobs and Swift out of the equation and just see if you can do Flowers, Thielen, and Nico for AJ Brown. Maybe just take the running backs out of the trade. I don't really want to move off of Jacobs, personally. Let's see. You traded Amon-Ra for Keenan Allen. Okay. Bijan, Kamara, good. Stevenson, solid. Monty, good. Keenan, Jacoby, Addison, Ridley, Logan Thomas. Okay. I would dangle Stevenson for maybe a tight end. I would dangle Stevenson and Ridley for like another wide receiver, or Stevenson straight up for like a better option at tight end. You're set at running back, Bijan, Kamara, Montgomery when he comes back. You have Keenan Allen. Addison's been really good. Jacoby Myers has been rock solid. Ridley is blah, but as a wide receiver 4, could be worse. Stevenson for a tight end upgrade, or Stevenson and Ridley for a better wide receiver. If you're looking for a buy low at running back, I like Joe Mixon. Something like that. But on the whole, these are good options. These are good pieces to play around with. These are good pieces to play around with. I would probably dangle Stevenson because you've got really good options at running back. We are at the end of the chat, and this game has officially kicked off, so I am going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for coming in, hanging out, talking shop today. I will be back on Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern for Start Sit Help. Thank you to thank you to Steven and Sam for the supers. Appreciate my members as always. There's Rashad White with a nice little run. There we go. And all of the engagement in general. Appreciate you guys for taking the time and talking shop tonight. Enjoy the game. I will see y'all Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, for a full-fledged Start Sit Help. We'll sort things out after we get through Thursday and Friday practice reports. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy Bills Bucs.